decided to go for a walk out on the street on a freaking cold day, recording 8K raw in my neighborhood as I go for a walk. I had like the Rode wireless lav mic, and I wanted to test it out outside. Or foolish me, I didn't charge it, so it was completely dead when I went to do that. I'm actually recording on the R5, 8K raw. No worry about overheating because it's really cold outside. You know, having the ability to do that on the R5C is nice. So the other day, R5C is announced, and on one of the camera channels that I follow, I'll post it right here, I had a question for Canon. A Canon rep was present for this actual video, and my question was...
Magnus says, I wonder if there's any advantage of using CLog 2 on this sensor. CLog 2 has more dynamic range, but can the sensor offer it?
Okay, R5 sensor is used for R5C. We don't have Canon Log 2 in the firmware. But if we recorded Canon Log 2, are we able to get 15 plus stops of dynamic range off of the sensor? Is there any point of using Canon Log 2? The host kind of asked the question, but then kind of turned it around and saying, can't we just already record Canon Log 2 on the R5? See, and then we're like, yeah, you know, there's no point in putting Canon Log 2, the response from Canon. I'll let you, in fact, here's what they responded.
Do we get CLog 2 in any capacity, Mehdi?
So you get CLog 3 on the R5C. I mean, you can with, similar to what we saw with, like with the C200, I'm trying to remember which cinema EOS, where you record in CLog 3, and then with the software you can actually get CLog 2. I mean, with the CLog 3 you get 14 stops of dynamic range. CLog 2, usually you're looking at about 15 stops of dynamic range, but it does need extensive post-processing, so you do spend longer in terms of editing. So most people tend to actually prefer CLog 3.
They say, yeah, camera has Canon Log 2. But what is the point of that? Camera has Canon Log 2, but they're saying if you record raw only. So what's the point of Canon Log 2 in the software where you could already do that? And they're saying camera could already do that, but you don't want to because it takes you longer to color grade. The point is, if we're asking for Canon Log 2, it's because we want that extra dynamic range, and we'll deal with the color grading in post. So I don't think they got the point. That brought up something else. Not an idea, but kind of like an argument that I've had for a while, and it's the following. I saw this video a while ago, actually, where somebody said, and I forget who I saw it from, they were like, Canon Log 2 when you're editing in the raw footage, and you could select Canon Log 2 in Premiere Pro, and you could select Canon Log 2 in Davinci Resolve. That's exactly the same as Canon Log, so it's like the camera doesn't really have Canon Log 2. That's the interesting point, like, is there no Canon Log 2? Is it the same as Canon Log 1? And was she lying because of what I heard in the past? So I went into Davinci Resolve, and in Davinci Resolve, I imported some Canon raw footage, and I also recorded 3 different file types. I recorded while having the camera set to just a regular color profile. Then I recorded the same shot with just Canon Log, and I recorded the same shot with Canon Log 3, because I do know that the raw file saves in different formats if you have your camera settings on something different. Here's what I found, and I did most of this in Davinci Resolve. When you record on a regular picture profile, you get less dynamic range in your raw file, so you actually lose detail, which is no good. We definitely don't want to lose detail or dynamic range when we're recording raw, but that's actually what happens. However, when you switch to Canon Log 3 or Canon Log, it seems that the file's dynamic range for the raw file is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter whether you have Canon Log or Canon Log 3, the raw file will give you options to select both, or not. Because with each file type, I also recorded a proxy file. So when I had Canon Log, I actually had Canon Log 1, 2, 3 recording at the same time. Now when you're in Premiere, it only lets you select off of the raw file, Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3. But on Davinci Resolve, it lets you select Canon Log 1, 2, and 3 in the raw file. But looking at it in post, in the raw file, Canon Log and Canon Log 2 have no difference. But when I compared the files, Canon Log in the Proxy file versus Canon Log 2 and Davinci Resolve, there was a discernible difference. And the dynamic range present in Canon Log off of the Proxy file was significantly less than Canon Log 2. So Canon Log 2, much to my surprise, is actually really recordable in the camera, and it seems that it was just a mistake, or the software itself, like Davinci Resolve, doesn't really give you Canon Log 1 when you record RAW. That's why perhaps in Adobe Premiere you can't select the regular Canon Log. You can only select Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3 because the RAW file, from what I was able to determine, doesn't give you that actual recording format. You would have to get it from the Proxy file, which is interesting. Whoever that person was who mentioned that Canon Log and Canon Log 2 are the same thing and there's no difference on the camera. Yes, there is. It's just a RAW file. It doesn't record or represent Canon Log, but it has Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3. Now, when comparing Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3 in post, the way it's actually exposed is very different. So you have to expose differently for each of the recording formats in Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3. But off of the sensor, from what I could tell, you don't get additional detail. I'll go off of this side straight. So you don't get additional detail off of the sensor. The sensor in Canon Log 2, Canon Log 3, it's a different way of editing and post. And yeah, it's more work in Canon Log 2 versus Canon Log 3. It's more work, but you don't get any additional dynamic range for that more work. It's almost like Canon saying there's no point in giving you Canon Log 2 because you're not getting any dynamic range increase off of this sensor. However, when working in post with other cameras like the C200, C300 that offer Canon Log 2, I would say that's the advantage, because then you could kind of color grade faster in post. And that's what Canon didn't really see or care about, because they're like, well, you know, it's more work. Why would you want more work? Well, that's why. Let me know what you think in the comment down below. Do you care that you don't get Canon Log 2 on the R5 and the R5C? Or are you surprised that Canon Log 2 is in the camera? You just have to record RAW. Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, like, share, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. Magnus, and I'm out. It's cold. Recording 8K RAW for about 20 minutes now as I walk around this neighborhood. But my record time is still crazy. Yay, winter. See you later.